Hello, it's been a bit. How's life? I'm doing pretty well, and recently I turned 23. So I thought, okay, what better opportunity do I have than now to make a long-form video discussing the things that I've learned over the past few years and condense it into one video. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about are experiences that I've had, tips that I've learned over time, and there is no specific professional medical health advice in this, but it's what has worked for me. And I believe that a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today, if you follow, is going to immensely improve your life. Let's begin. Number one, stop avoiding conflict. You know, I spent most of my teenage life just trying to avoid confrontation and conflict in all forms. Whether this was genuine conflict or even my friends deciding where to eat that I didn't agree with, I just wouldn't say anything. I'm not even kidding. And as a result of that, what I ended up doing was I was always living in accordance with other people's opinions and other people's experiences. And I always used to think to myself like, when is the time that I'm going to get to do something or go somewhere that I want? But how the fuck was that going to happen if I didn't express where I wanted to go, if I didn't express what I wanted to do? The opinions you hold are extremely valuable and they're extremely important, so you should never be afraid to express them. Especially with people close to you, especially with people that you hang out on a regular basis with. And I feel like I was this way for quite a while until last year I started a sales job. And the sales job was in like a telco, so they sold phones, cellular plans, all that stuff. And just for context, I live in Melbourne, Australia right now, and this is where most people are extremely expressive, which is an amazing thing. But when there's something negative, they're also going to express that. So I worked as a retail sales consultant there, and what used to happen was that people would get absolutely pissed off at their bills. And they would walk up into the store, right? And they would take out their entire day's frustration on you. Why is my bill 30 cents more than last month? Fuck you. Whoa. Like, this was the first time I had to genuinely head-on deal with conflict, right? Because all the other times in my life, I was just like going to my room, avoiding the conversation, letting it fester, putting it in this imaginary cupboard till I could no longer handle it. But now there was no cupboard, there was nowhere to put it, there was no delaying the matter, the person was right in front of me. So I had to take the conversation. I had to deal with that particular problem right then and there. And in the beginning, obviously, this was a bit tough because there's people who are experiencing negative emotions, taking it all out on you. And this is the exact type of conflict that made me feel uncomfortable back in the day. But here I didn't have a choice because it was my job, so I had to learn how to do it. And in the beginning, of course, it was tough. Of course, I was like, oh shit, this customer hates me. But over time, as I got more practice, literally just getting the reps in of people complaining at you and you learning how to deal with that, I learned how to deal with conflict and confrontation much better as well. To a point where if somebody came up to me and just screamed in my face, it would not faze me, and it still won't faze me. That would probably be the most valuable thing I got from that job. Just being able to handle confrontation and conflict. But the carryover impact of this is that it improved my own personal life. Now I'm no longer scared to have any difficult conversations, to have any conversations where I feel like I might be on the losing end, because I'm okay with that uncomfortable feeling of somebody feeling bad towards me and me not being able to do anything about it. No matter what, if somebody confronts you, you should learn how to slowly deal with it. You should learn how to take that confrontation and really face it head on. This could be a difficult conversation with a loved one. This could be a difficult conversation with a coworker. There's limitless examples of this, but the moment you learn how to deal with conflict and actually face it is the point where your life starts getting better because you're able to resolve things as they come and it doesn't go in a cupboard until it can no longer fester. Because when it does, it's 300 times worse. So deal with the conflict head on and stop running away from it. Number 2, understand dopamine. My whole life, I can guarantee you, just like you and I, if we grew up in the same generation, we have been addicted to dopamine. Whether this was playing video games, whether this was scrolling our phones, or being extremely addicted to streaming services, this is genuinely commonplace amongst literally every teenager, everybody of our age in Gen Z and even millennials. Me personally, I remember that I used to always be obsessed with video games. I always used to be obsessed with things that gave me dopamine. And I would always gravitate towards things that would give me instant dopamine, that instant gratification. But I always wondered why I felt like shit after a long gaming session or after binging one season of Black Mirror for 8 hours straight. Reading this one book really changed my life, and it's called Dopamine Nation. I highly recommend you read it because it dives deep into why we do the things that we do, and it also touches a lot on addiction and how we can deal with addiction. I can confidently say that at a point I was definitely addicted to video games. Reading this book helped me understand the mindset that I was in at that time, and also helped me combat other things on a day-to-day basis, like scrolling my phone or procrastinating any difficult tasks. So I highly recommend you read that book, but I'm going to explain in my own words the summary of what that concept is of dopamine. Think of dopamine like a seesaw, right? You've got bad, you've got good. Seesaw's neutral, that means your dopamine is neutral, you're just feeling all right. Let's say you do something that feels really good for you in the moment, right? That means the good goes up. So now you're here. It's not balanced anymore. What our body often wants is just balance, homeostasis. So when you do something good for an extended period of time, you've got the good here and the bad here, and it has to be balanced again. So what your body does to bring it back to balance is that it takes the bad and increases it for a bit to match your good. And that's why after you do something instant gratification like scrolling your phone, playing video games, any of those type of activities, you feel like shit for a short while before you feel like normal. And I definitely experienced so many of those ups and downs whenever I involved myself in these activities. And I never understood why. If I could go back and tell myself that, hey, look, 8 hours of Fortnite with nothing else in your day is gonna make you feel like trash for the next 8 hours, I probably wouldn't have been in that cycle of playing video games, feeling like shit, and then being like, oh, I feel like shit because I'm not playing video games again, feeling like shit, and that cycle continuing. So to feel good, it doesn't mean that you have to do something good and keep upping the good. If you feel like shit after playing video games, that doesn't mean you have to play more video games, because the bad is only going to increase to compensate for that. So how do we deal with this? How do we actually feel good on a regular basis? Just like we do the good things that it makes us feel bad, we have to do something that makes us feel bad in the moment so that our body can compensate us with good emotions and feelings. How does this work? Think of the things that could feel bad for you in the moment but are amazing for you in the long run. This could be exercise. This could be doing a difficult task that you were putting off for a long time. But again, think about it. Doing something bad for you in the moment means your body has to compensate and give you good feelings to make up for it. That's why people who work out really hard are just like, oh, it feels like shit in the moment, but I feel amazing after. And understanding the seesaw concept of dopamine genuinely helped me get rid of my video gaming addiction, understanding what I do on a day-to-day basis. What do you do on a regular basis that you think you might be just using as instant gratification? Try replacing that with like a delayed gratification activity of your own choice. I'm not saying you have to go and exercise or whatever. Do something difficult for yourself that you know is good for you in the long run. If you reward yourself every day with McDonald's, you're probably going to feel like shit after you eat McDonald's. Instead, try eating a really healthy, balanced meal. And you know that in the moment, you won't get as much dopamine as you did from eating 8 McSpicies. But then afterwards, you're not going to have any bloat. You're not going to have any lethargy. You're just going to feel good. And it's genuinely how I've changed my life, because now I do everything I do to optimize my dopamine. And I feel so good all the time. I'm not kidding. Number 3, take cold showers. Jumping off the back of dopamine, we have to understand why cold showers are such a huge thing in the self-development community. It's posed as this sort of, oh, I'm better than you type of thing, that, oh, I can do more than you type of thing. But it's not about just having an insane amount of willpower and being so disciplined that you wake up and jump into the cold shower. The practical reason for this is just to get that good dopamine. I used to take warm showers, hot showers all the time. I still do. I switch it to cold at the end of the shower. But the hot shower is what it is. It's comfortable. It feels good. When you're awake in the morning, you're not going to feel that feeling of wanting to go and get up and do work if you're doing a hot shower. A cold shower, on the other hand, even if it's at the end of your warm shower, is going to help you wake up. And studies have shown that it improves your dopamine for 4 hours after you take it. If you got dopamine from, let's say, drinking alcohol, that would give you dopamine for how long? Half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours? A cold shower is going to improve your dopamine steadily for 4 hours. Take it. This is personally why I do cold showers. It's not to flex, it's not to show that I have more discipline than anybody else. It's purely selfish for my own dopamine reasons. That's why you should take more cold showers. You're going to feel happier throughout the day, you'll feel more productive, you'll just feel and function better overall. Number 4, and I hope you saw this coming, workout. Growing up, I genuinely wasn't that big of an athlete type kid. In fact, I was the small one. I was the underweight one. I was told I had asthma and I was like, cool, I have asthma, and I really didn't enjoy exercising all that much either. Sports didn't interest me, the gym didn't interest me, cardio didn't interest me. I just wanted to sit and do my own thing. I didn't want to go out and run. But guess what? I was studying in a computer science focused background in high school, and there was no other avenue of me getting physical activity throughout the week unless it was PE or unless it was something I organized on my own. I did the bare minimum in PE and I never did anything else. So that means I was basically immobile for most of the day all the time. But my mental health wasn't that great and I used to feel pretty bad all the time. There were many factors for this. Of course, exams are stressful, studying is stressful, all that high school environment stuff. But an aspect of it is that I never got any physical exercise and I never knew the importance of it. I was always lethargic, I was always in a negative mental state, and I never understood why. But I do remember there was a time when I was like 17 years old, towards the end of my high school, is when we were playing like netball on a particular day, and it wasn't that great of a game, but I just think for some reason I gave it more than I generally do. And I was actually a bit involved. That made me feel really good. Like, it made me feel like a positive mood that I hadn't felt in a long time. After it ended, I was just enjoying that exhilarated feeling for however long it lasted. And then the next day, of course, it went back to feeling like I normally did, which was like shit. But I remembered that and I was like, okay, wait, maybe actually sports makes a difference, exercise makes a difference. But I ignored it because I was studying for my exams. I was doing all the things I had to make sure I didn't absolutely fail my A levels. So after everything ended, the exams ended and I was done with junior college, which is essentially high school in Singapore. I then had shitloads of time. I became an extreme professional at Fortnite, but then I still had about 8 hours to kill, right? Okay, so maybe this can be a good time for me to get bigger and not so underweight anymore so that I can look cool. And that's exactly what I started doing. I slowly started going to the gym and I started bulking. My split genuinely just consisted of arms, chest, shoulders, a little bit of back. 0 legs ever. 0 cardio. And on top of that, I would spam 4 Nutella sandwiches every single day. And I was like, alright, I am bulking. That pursuit of me going to the gym, bulking, all that, actually helped me start working out more consistently, and as a result of that, it started improving my mental health. I was like, whoa, you can feel like this on a regular basis? You can feel positive all the time? Because it felt like most of my life I'd been feeling pretty negative, and now all of a sudden I was feeling positive on a consistent basis. I was like, okay, I kind of like weightlifting now. I like doing this gym thing. Let's keep doing it. An added factor was the progress that I saw, of course. I mean, when you first start going to the gym, it doesn't matter if you're eating Nutella sandwiches. If you touch weights, you're going to see progress regardless, which I did. And I was really happy to see that, okay, I'm making a change in myself that I am actually enforcing on my own, which gave me that boosted sense of self-confidence as well. So maybe it wasn't just the endorphins, but also that sense of showing to myself that, okay, I can stick to something and I can actually accomplish something. That means I can do a lot more as well. And years later now, we look at studies that have shown that exercise is actually more beneficial than antidepressants. It feels like over the last couple of years, people who used to say that, oh, exercise is the best for mental health, were never taken seriously. They were always taken as sort of conspiracy theorists. But now the science seems to have caught up. And it's really interesting because I think as a society, we're all pretty sedentary, right? We all basically sit on our asses for 8 hours a day, go home, watch Netflix on our couch, fall asleep. All of us need to exercise just a little bit more. So if you don't already, I would recommend that you start with 3 to 5 times of exercise per week. And this doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and lift so hard that you absolutely die. Exercise can be done in any form. It can be stretching, it can be going for a walk outside, it can be doing cardio like running. It's really up to you. You don't have to follow any one person's template. What I love is weightlifting. I know I need to be doing more cardio. The ideal is, of course, a good combination of weightlifting and cardio. But if you're just starting out, do whatever you can. If you don't want to go for a walk, do a couple of sit-ups in your room. Make it accessible for yourself so that you can be consistent with it. And in the long term, you will see results, and you will see results in your mental health as well. So just work out. Number 5, get enough protein. This is in the same vein of working out, but I never realized how big of a role that protein plays in your diet. If you want to feel strong, if you want to have sustained energy on a regular basis, you should be consuming more protein. It's often thought that only people who work out need to be ingesting a good amount of protein, but that's not actually the case. All of us need a good amount of protein to function well on a day-to-day basis. I feel like I didn't know the importance of this growing up, especially because protein isn't the emphasized part of an Indian diet. It's carbs. Usually if you look at Indian meals, it's rice or like roti for the most part, and then you've got some veg curries and maybe a little bit of like chicken or something on the side. But it's often a side dish where it should be the main course. Only when I started working out, I started researching about protein a bit more, understanding how much of a difference it actually makes. And that's when I switched it up from just doing 4 Nutella sandwiches per day to also incorporating a good amount of protein in my diet. If you exercise, I've found that 2 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight is the best way to go about it if you track your calories. And if you don't really work out all that much, just aim to get protein with every meal. And if you don't work out that much, that's fine. Just aim to get protein with every meal. Make that the main component of your meal rather than any other aspect, rather than fats or carbs. Get more protein, you're gonna have more energy, you're gonna feel stronger. And if you go to the gym, you'll see better results. Number 6, learn to do things tired. This was a quote that I heard, I don't know from where, in a podcast or a person, whatever, but this is the reality that you have to accept. This is the reality that I sort of accepted when I started working after university, is that there will never be a time in your life where you're absolutely and perfectly energized or recharged to go do something. Because trust me, there's been many times where I refused social opportunities, where I refused to go out with people just because I was like, I'm a bit socially tired today, I'm a bit tired from doing my assignments, or I'm studying for my exams and I'm a bit lethargic today. And I just refused. I can't gain back any of the experiences I said no to. But there's no point in regretting, because when I realized, I started taking action immediately. Even let's say after a long day at work, I was invited to go somewhere, I would say yes. And more often than not, even if I was feeling like a 6 out of 10, it was a fun experience. I would have rather gone than just gone back home and just went to bed. No matter where you are in your life, high school, university, working, as you get older, the number of responsibilities will naturally increase. That means that you're not going to feel 100% all the time. But that doesn't mean you should be saying no to new opportunities that come your way. If your friend invites you and you're at a 6 out of 10, just go. Who knows? Right? And you could have a really nice new experience. If you're feeling slightly tired and usually you go to the gym today but you want to skip it, just go anyway and do a bit less than you normally would. You'll thank yourself after. So no matter what it is that you're doing, whether it's going out with somebody, doing something for yourself, don't choose to reject that thing entirely just because you're a little bit tired. Because trust me, the days where you feel amazing and recharged are probably not that high as you get older. So you have to do the thing regardless and just keep going. You'll thank yourself in the future when you actually have memories to look back on, as opposed to just vegging out on the couch after you got home. Number 7, stop letting one bad day ruin your entire week, month, or year. When I was 16, right, I used to yo-yo between creating content and not creating content. I would create content during holidays and I would just go all in. Like I would dedicate my entire day, my entire night even. Sometimes I would not sleep until 4 a.m. because I was up editing a video that I really wanted to put out the following day. And I did it and it did well. But the thing is that I would fall off the bandwagon because of how intensely I was doing things. So of course it got to a point where there was a day where all I did was stare at my screen and did absolutely nothing. Ate some junk food and I'd beat myself up so much for it. Like, wow, you had such a good streak going of you making videos and now you've ruined it all. All of the days don't matter anymore. You have failed. You thought you could do something, but you're not doing it. So you should give up. But wait, that's not actually the case, is it? If I was making videos for 7 days, 8 days, I still spent that time making the videos. I still made progress. I was still going in this direction. But then I dropped here. But over here, I'm still better than I previously was. Which means if I had just started back up again, I would have continued on the trajectory of progression. But I didn't and I wouldn't, so I just ended up falling off the bandwagon and stopping making videos for a long time before I was like, alright guys, yes, I'm back. And then 2 weeks later, I'd stop again. So my point here is that no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're trying to improve yourself, let's say you're trying to eat healthier, you shouldn't beat yourself up if you've had one bad day. Don't count the days, make the days count. But I mean, that is actually useful advice. Because if you're stuck thinking about how perfectly consistent that you've been with every single thing that you're doing, you're only gonna beat yourself up immensely when it finally inevitably stops. You're human, you're not GPT-4, you're gonna mess up at times, but it's your job to get back on the wagon. So don't let any one day ruin your progress. If you've been going to the gym for 3 months and one day you decided that, okay, I'm just gonna eat McDonald's for the entire day, it's fine. Use all the sodium you ate to get a great pump at the gym the next day. Stop regretting over any one day that you might have missed, that you might have fucked up. Move on. Number 8, stay hydrated. A big part of why I avoided exercise or why I avoided anything physically intensive when I was younger was just because I used to just get sick right after. I remember that I was part of modern dance in my secondary school and I would be doing hip hop intense sort of choreographies. And 3 hours would pass and I would be like, ooh, that was a tough day. And the next day I'd wake up with a sore throat, flu-like symptoms, and I just wouldn't go to school for the next 3 days. Why? This is literally because I drank zero water and I was completely dehydrated. Even when I'd first started the gym, this was what I was genuinely concerned about. And it did happen every now and again. But that has now absolutely stopped. In fact, I don't even get sick that often anymore. Because it's because I know how to hydrate. You might think that it's just drinking water, right? But no, you are wrong. If you drink only water, you're just gonna piss it out. And your body isn't going to absorb any of it. What we actually need to be doing is getting sodium, potassium, and water. So sodium could be, for example, pink salt or sea salt, anything like that. Potassium could be bananas. I mean, instead of doing all of that, I usually just like to use like a electrolyte effervescent tablet. I'll just put it into my water and it's a complete perfect hydration. And yeah, now I can be as intense as I want at the gym without worrying that, okay, I'm gonna fall sick right after. Stay hydrated. Number 9, get enough sunlight. This sounds like the most boomer advice ever, especially when you ask your parents that, hey, I'm a bit sad, what should I do? And they're like, go outside for a walk and get some sunlight. And you're like, thank you very much for the advice. But it is true. I sound like an absolute 50-year-old saying this, but it is true. I was a vampire, I admit. I used to have the curtains down, the blinds down in my room, and just the LED strip lights on all the time. Then I used to wonder, hey, why can't I fall asleep? It's 5 a.m. It's because my body didn't know what time it was. Getting enough sunlight in the morning and maybe close to sunset is gonna prime your body for its circadian rhythm to adjust. That basically means you're gonna get better sleep more consistently. Think about the days that you went out, maybe you were walking in the sun, maybe you went on a hike, and you got home and slept like a baby that night. Why do you think so? Of course it was the physical strain of the hike itself, but also it's because you spent that much time in the sunlight. More sun equals better rest, better mood. So get more sunlight. Number 10, make the first move. Now this is a very interesting one because I feel like 99.7% of the world does not make the first move and is waiting for somebody to take the initiative to start anything. This could be a friendship, this could be a business meeting, this could be anything in a group project in a university. Everybody's always waiting for somebody to stand and start it. So my point is, why don't you be that person? Because let me tell you, I used to be the person that was waiting around. I used to be the person that was hoping that somebody would come up and talk to me so that we could be friends. I was hoping that somebody from that cool group could come and speak to me and then I would be invited in. But how would they know that I wanted to be invited in if I never told them and I was just waiting? How was I ever gonna get the job that I wanted if I didn't ask? How would I learn more about my friends if I didn't ask them how they were doing? Like, social dynamics in my life genuinely started to change when I was able to make the first move more often. Before this, in high school and everything, I used to feel like, okay, I don't really want to go do that because, I might say the wrong thing, I might say it weird. But over time I realized, especially after messing up so many lines during my sales job, is that it really doesn't matter. Everybody needs a person in their circle that goes up and just says, hey, let's do this. When I started going up to people and asking them to be my friend, asking them to hang out, that's when I started noticing rapid change in my social circles. I was hanging out with people that I really wanted to. I was also having amazing conversations because I wasn't afraid of asking. I think one of the biggest examples I can give you is me opening up to my friends without any expectation. It was in the beginning of 2022, and I remember I wasn't doing that well, and I just wanted to speak to my friends about it. But we had never really approached any conversations with emotional vulnerability. And so I was like, okay, is this really the right crowd to open up to? But I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my chances. I'll just say what I need to. I'll say everything honestly. And if they're like, hi, you're a loser, I'll just deal with the feeling. But guess what happened when I actually opened up to them? They understood and they told me their experiences. They told me what they were going through as well. And after that, I feel like there was such a better bond amongst us that we were able to open up and share these honest thoughts with each other. And I felt like, okay, I had taken this first step to actually open up, and now we were all able to speak more honestly with each other. And this can apply to every single context: your personal life, social life, your career. If you're afraid to make the first move, if you're afraid to ask, things may never work out for you. But if you do, there is a chance that it works out. So take that chance and make the first move. Number 11, don't be afraid of rejection. Moving forward with the point of making the first move. What happens if you make the first move and people don't like you? What happens if they have terrible opinions of you? True, you're going to feel rejected. You're going to feel bad. You're going to maybe beat yourself up a little bit about it. I mean, that's what I did, genuinely. A big part of why I never asked people for anything is because I was just afraid of the no that I would get back. If I wanted to go out with a friend or somebody who I wanted to be my friend and I asked them to go out and they said, hey, no, I would take that as an entire rejection of my entire being. Where it wasn't, maybe they just didn't want to go out. Or maybe they actually didn't like my whole personality. But either ways, it's fine. We have to move on. And you might be like, yeah, Chetan, you're sitting here just telling me not to be afraid of rejection. Can you tell me anything actionable? What the hell can I do to not be afraid of rejection? Yeah, get rejected more. Like, the only way to deal with rejection is exposure therapy, in my experience. I spent years of my life never asking people for anything out of a fear of rejection. And that fear never went away. It only started decreasing a little bit when I started asking people and getting rejected. I did many times. For example, in my sales job, it was my job to sell stuff. It was my job to sell headphones, speakers, blah, blah, blah. I would ask people and they'd straight up say no to my face. But that doesn't mean that I had time to be dejected and just ruin the rest of my day. I had to try with the next person that came in. And I felt like it's the same in life as well. Because if I, let's say, want to go up to a person and be friends with them and they decide to say that, hey, no, I don't want to, I'm not interested, I shouldn't cower away. I shouldn't be like, okay, that person doesn't like me means nobody likes me. No, there's another person there. Let me go ask, hey, how are you? What's your name? I'm Chetan. Cool, it might work out. But yeah, I went through that gradual process of like asking people, getting rejected, then feeling like shit about it, still doing it anyway. But again, it gets to a point where you've practiced it enough that somebody says no and you're like, yeah, cool. That really helps you in terms of asking for things, in terms of expressing yourself and being okay if people reject your opinion. It's also a superpower because nobody can make you feel bad by saying no to your face. If you're okay with being told no, you'll just move on and do other things. So learn to be okay with being rejected. Number 12, learn to say no. Now that you've learned to deal with rejection and handle being told no to, you have to be the one that starts saying no more often. Think about it. How many times in your life have you participated in an activity or gone somewhere, done something that you didn't really align with, but thought that other people would like just so that you could please them? Probably a few times, yes? Another example is like, what if people are asking too much of you and you're getting burnt out in just trying to help them? I can give you a concrete example is where back in university, there was this dude that would literally ask me for homework all the time. And me being nice, I would genuinely offer and I would be like, okay, cool, here you go, here's what I've done. Because, hey, I was like, if we all win, it's great. But there came a point where one day I was leaving the lecture and this dude walks up to me because I hadn't replied to him the other day because he was asking me so much. And he comes up to me right after the lecture and he's like, hey bro, where's my homework? And that fucking pissed me off. At that point, I was like, okay, you expect me to give you my homework and every single day without giving me anything back. Why should I give you this? I'm no longer gonna do it. And this was in front of everybody who had just exited the lecture. This was the first time in my life where I had said no so blatantly without offering any reason and explanation. And I realized that, okay, maybe it was my fault that I had gotten it to a point where this guy was taking my help for granted and expecting it of me. So don't let people walk all over you. Don't let people peer pressurize you into doing something you don't align with. Say no, stand your ground. You don't have to offer any reason for it. These days, if I'm asked something that I really can't do in that moment, I don't have the capacity for, instead of scrambling like I used to get it done for them, I just say no. And if they feel bad about it, there's absolutely nothing I can do because it's just beyond my capacity. That's it. Make your life peaceful, say no more often. Number 13, use an addictive personality to your advantage. See, generally I don't like labeling myself, but I would say that I have the attributes of somebody who may have an addictive personality. I was 7 years old trying to beat Ben 10 Alien Force on my PSP, and there was this one level I just couldn't get past. And I remember, I would not eat, I would not do anything until I got past that level. In fact, I spent days getting past that level to a point where I would wake up and immediately go to my PSP and be like, alright, I have to beat this. I have to. The day I beat it was when I finally got relief. I was like, okay, cool, now I can do other things. In my teens, I was obsessed with Marvel, MCU. It wasn't like the Marvels was. It was genuinely good. And me not being an avid comic book reader or not knowing anything about Marvel prior to the MCU starting, I was so intrigued with the Avengers movie that I went and read up on everything. I started reading comics. I started reading wiki articles about the characters. I got so into it. And throughout, I was just invested in theories, spoiler talks, blah, blah, blah. I was addicted to the MCU for a bit. Then came Fortnite. It was a game that really intrigued me and I wanted to get so good at it. I didn't play online games before, so keyboard and mouse was new for me. But I was like, no, I must get good and I must get professionally competitive at this. And yes, there came a point where I spent days and nights, 8 hours a day just playing, and I got really good. Then I realized that, okay, when I give a shit about something, I put my all into it. That means I could put it to good use as well. Since realizing that, I channel it into things I find productive. For example, I've gotten really into the whole realm of health and fitness, right? I can tell you, over the past year, I've probably 500x'd my knowledge on health, fitness, exercise, everything. And that's because I genuinely am interested in it. So I was like, okay, since I care so much, let me channel my energy into this and actually learn more about it. And in doing so, I've improved my own exercise, my health, my fitness, etc. So if you think you have an addictive personality, don't waste it. Like, it can actually be used in a good manner. In fact, I've seen many business owners, entrepreneurs talk about how they used to be like, oh, top rank in League of Legends and stuff like that. Even though I've never played the game, I understand the feeling that they used to grind hours and hours on this video game. But now they use that same sort of mindset of stat building to build a successful business. So just because you're addicted to something, you're addicted to video games right now, doesn't mean you can't use that addictive personality in something really useful for yourself. Number 14, live just beyond your edge. Now, this concept I've basically stolen from The Way of the Superior Man by David Dida. This book has really positively impacted the way I look at many different things in life, including conversations, relationships, friendships, the way I do things as well. If you haven't already read it, I really recommend that you do, because I could make a 4-hour video just on this book alone. But one of the most important topics that I've found to be useful is this one. And I will read a little bit from it right now. In any given moment, a man's growth is optimized if he leans just beyond his edge, his capacity, his fear. He should not be too lazy, happily stagnating in the zone of security and comfort. Nor should he push far beyond his edge, stressing himself unnecessarily, unable to metabolize his experience. He should lean just slightly beyond the edge of fear and discomfort, constantly in everything he does. So what does this mean? What I take from this chapter is that we all have a particular limit in what we can do in a given day. The growth really comes from when we start doing slightly more than what we could have done that day. And it can be in any aspect of that particular day itself. So let's say it was your gym session today and you were feeling a 4 out of 10. All right, could you have given one extra rep? Could you have done one extra set than you felt like doing? If you did it, congratulations. You've lived beyond your edge that day for that gym session. What if you were supposed to meet a friend and then you had a tough day at work, you had an argument with a coworker, and then you come back home, you're just not feeling it, but you've already committed. You still go out with your friend. You still commit to the thing that you were going to do, and you've lived beyond your edge for that day. In my own life, the days where I have just been like, okay, I really can't be fucked today, but I've done a bit more than I felt like doing, are the days where I've genuinely been extremely proud of myself. And not just pride, doing that obviously leads to progress in anything that you're doing over time. Because if you're just at this capacity all the time, and you're never trying to exceed this capacity, that means you'll be stuck here your whole life. But let's say every day you're just trying to live a bit beyond what you can do, that capacity of yours in anything that you do is gonna just increase over time. And there'll be a time where you do all these things that you do right now with complete ease, and you won't even feel like, whoa, that was overwhelming. You feel like it's easy. That's what happens when you live just a bit beyond your edge. I'm telling you, a year ago, I couldn't imagine doing all the different things that I do now. I couldn't imagine making videos on a regular basis either. And maybe in a few years, I'll look back and be like, all right, why were you stressing about these 6 things? It's not a big deal. So learn to live just beyond your edge. It's gonna make you progress so much faster. Number 15, defeat overthinking. I can't tell you how many ruminating thoughts that I used to deal with all the time regarding my academics, my results, how well or how trash I would do. How often I overthought a social interaction I had, and like in my head thinking that if I could have said that sentence better. That doesn't make me special. I know all of us go through this similar universal experience of sort of over-analyzing everything that we do. But one trick I learned from TikTok, I'm not joking, from TikTok, this guy who is a mental health coach, I don't know what his name is, but if I do find him, I'll tag him below. He said that the way to stop overthinking is to have that overthinking thought, but do the thing you value anyway. Why? Because our brain doesn't understand words, it only understands actions. When we're overthinking, we're often trying to convince ourselves that whatever is going on is going to be all good. Well, I'm thinking this, oh yeah, maybe it should be fine. You can't convince your brain, but your brain understands your actions. So if, let's say, you're overthinking a particular social interaction you had the other day, and you really have to go do some work right now, you can't let that overthinking thought affect your ability to do your work. You can't sit there being like, oh my God, until this thing gets resolved, I'm not going to be able to focus on work. Wrong. You're gonna be able to focus on work if you force yourself to adapt that, okay, this thought is here. It's like a person on my couch who I don't want, but they're gonna be there and they can watch me while I do my work. It's fine. And then you go do your work. Only then you're communicating to your brain that, hey, I actually don't give a shit about this thought, and yeah, it's useless for me. That's when those overthinking, ruminating thoughts are actually gradually gonna start to disappear. And I'm not saying I don't overthink anymore. I do have thoughts where I'm just like, oh shit, can I do this or not? But I'm just like, let's just do it anyway. I'm having this thought right now that perhaps I can't do it. But let's do it anyway. Like when I first thought of this concept for this video, I'm like, do I have 22 things to say? What if people don't like it? What if people don't agree? You know what? Let's do it anyway. That concept has really changed the way I look at overthinking, and I really feel that I don't overthink as much as I used to. And as a result of it, I just have more time in my life because I'm not wasting my time just ruminating about things that could have happened, that should have happened, and just whiling away minutes, hours of my time. Number 16, be present. Now this is one that I still struggle with, but I remind myself however often I can to be present, to be here right now. I had and I have this problem of always thinking about what the next thing is. After this, I have to go to the gym. After the gym, I have to do this. But I actually never ended up being fully present and enjoying that moment I was in, because I was always in my head thinking about the next 7 things to do. The only way to enjoy it is if you're actually there. Just because you're physically present doesn't mean you're mentally all the way here, right? Being present really allows you to take in every aspect of whatever you're doing at that point. The way I've done this is to just practice mindfulness meditation. This is what has worked for me. I just download, I used to use Headspace, but then I changed it because it was like $20 a month, right? And I wanted to get GPT-4. So canceled Headspace, and then if you watch Hamza, he recommends this app called Medito. Medito is a free app. So I downloaded that, and that works just as well. So every now and again, I would like to do it more often, but I do these mindfulness practices that really bring me back, ground me in this moment. In doing so, I'm not thinking about the other 87 things I have to do in the next week. I'm really enjoying this moment truly. That reduces stress, that reduces anxiety, and that increases my ability to enjoy right now. Because yeah, maybe it's okay right now that I'm only thinking about the trivial things of going to the gym, blah, 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 whatever. But imagine like your significant other or your child is performing or they're doing something incredible and you're just there thinking about yesterday's email you had to send out. That would be so sad. And people can tell when you're not really present. People can tell when you're just kind of there to be there. I never want that to happen, and you shouldn't either. And that's why we should be present. Number 17, stop consuming depressing content. I feel like this is a particularly new phenomenon because of social media, YouTube, etc. It's very easy to be feeling a certain way and then go and find content that affirms the way that you're feeling. If you're feeling bad, especially I've seen with sort of male depressing content, it always like says, oh, I used to feel good, now what happened? What's 2023 come to? Just depressing shit with depressing music. All those Sigma male, Blade Runner 2049 type of edits. They're aesthetic, but they are not good for your mental health. Because constantly looking to this media is only going to be a negative feedback loop of how you're feeling about yourself. If you're feeling trash today, if you're feeling really sad, and you go find content that continues to make you even sadder, how are you going to climb out of that well of negativity? It's going to be near impossible. And I find that it's the same, and this is difficult to say, with negative music. A lot of music out there is just about breakups. A lot of the music is just about feeling down and hopeless and consuming drugs to avoid feelings. I feel like I just described 80% of the artists. I'm not saying be extreme and don't listen to their music, but I'm saying be careful how often you do. Like these days, I definitely listen to music, but I definitely cut down on the negative music that I listen to. Like, I used to enjoy The Weeknd so much, and I still do. But I put a cap on how much I listen to him because he's always down and depressed. I don't want to be like that. So I'm literally choosing to put a cap, a limit on how much I can listen of his music. But overall, I'm not going to lie to you, I do feel more positive on a regular basis. It's the same with your TikToks. If you see anything sad, if you see people constantly complaining on your For You page and you really like it, you repost it, you're going to remain in that negative void forever. Click onto it, click not interested, and move on. Start looking at positive things. The things that you feed your mind is what your mind is going to feed back to you. If you really want to feel good, stop consuming depressing content. Number 18, stop being on autopilot. Whether you go to school, whether you go to university, or you work a 9 to 5, all of you can agree with me that life gets extremely repetitive at times. We don't think about the way we brush our teeth. We don't think about the way we walk to the bus stop every single day. This is all automatic stuff that happens every single day without our conscious thinking because we're so used to doing them. And then we look back and it's like 7 weeks have passed. I haven't done anything interesting. How come this time has just passed me by? How come I don't realize that, I haven't done anything interesting? I can personally relate with this because during the lockdown here, I had a particular schedule of, okay, wake up at this time, eat the same thing, do the same thing over and over and over again. And there was a point where I no longer felt emotions because I was just on autopilot all the time. There was nothing new for me to do. Maybe that was circumstantial because in the lockdown there truly wasn't that much to do in the first place because we were all locked down inside our homes. But guess what? Even the lockdown has ended, many people's lockdown in their mind continues to exist because they do the same thing day in and day out. You don't want to be doing that all the time because you're gonna look back on your time and be like, okay, where did it all go? It's okay to be on autopilot for the things that are required, like brushing your teeth or like getting groceries, whatever. But every now and again, you should be disrupting your routine so that you're doing something new and basically getting rid of the autopilot. Go skydiving, go do something absolutely new, join a salsa dance lesson. It's gonna bring you out of your head of doing the same robotic tasks every day and bring you into a human version of you. You'll get to enjoy something new. You'll get to come out of that routine and actually make a memorable experience that you can hold on to in these particular weeks where you're doing basically the same thing. It's kind of like how people go through the entire year and just wait for Christmas holidays. And during Christmas holidays is when they visit their family, do things, and actually come out of their robotic thinking and do human things. But the rest of the year doesn't really matter. The only highlight is Christmas. So instead of that being your only highlight, come out of your autopilot. Do more new things more often. They can be small things. You can start a new hobby, learn a new language, make a new friend. It's really all up to you. But every now and again, you should disrupt your routine with something absolutely new so that you don't experience the autopilot feeling of time just passing you by. Doing this more often has really helped me keep track of time and how it progresses instead of just being like, all right, let me do this thing for 12 weeks and then I'll think about my life. But yeah, introduce something new every now and again to keep things interesting in your own life. Number 19, go out with your friends at least once in 2 weeks. That sounds pretty minimal, but it's actually quite realistic. Let me explain. As you grow older, you're no longer going to be able to hang out with your friends as much as you used to. So if you are in school, uni right now, do as much as you can. Hang out with them, spend time with each other, because all of you have similar schedules. As you grow older, and as I have grown older and seen my friends and myself step into work life, adulthood, everybody starts having more responsibilities and it's no longer as convenient to be like, all right, let's go out in 1 hour, I'll see you at your house. You have to organize things, you have to adhere to people's schedules and set things up. But because of this friction, I realized that most people just lose friends. They lose touch with each other because they don't want to go through the effort of putting in the work to find a time that suits them. But does that mean you end up just deleting all your friends as you get older? I refuse to do that. So I've set myself a routine that, okay, at least once in 2 weeks, I'm going to meet my friends. I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, let's go do this. Even if we catch up just for dinner, I'm going to meet them. So that I'm maintaining my friendships. I know what's going on with their lives and they know what's going on with mine. And yeah, we really get to see each other grow. Don't take your friends, family, your significant other, anybody in your life for granted. Make sure you're making the time, even if it's a little bit, every once in a while, to spend with them, to really spend with them and be there. And yeah, like setting this rule this year especially has helped me a lot because I feel like I've had a lot to do where I would have been like, okay, no guys, I can't hang out, I have too much to do. But this rule is like, okay, no, too bad. Even if you have stuff to do, you're going to catch up with your friends. Number 20, develop social skills. All these things I've been yapping about for about 1 hour now won't make any difference if you make the first move, handle rejection, everything, and go up and do not know what to say. Social skills are the key to a better life in all aspects. This is personal. This is work related. If you can have good conversations, you can make good friends that you really relate with. If you can have good conversations, you can really make good work relationships that can get you so much further in your career. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that takes practice. It's something that I've definitely practiced because I feel like during my teenage life, I just didn't like talk to so many people. But as I have developed that skill right now, I can definitely attest to the fact that how much having a good social conversational ability actually contributes to your overall growth. And again, what is the actionable thing you can do here? Of course, you can read books about it, you can read books about conversations, watch seminars, etc. But nothing works as well as you going and trying to make conversation. What you can actually do, and what I've done, is just strike up more conversations with people that are in your day-to-day setting. This could be at your workplace, this could be at school. Do a little bit more than what is required. Ask, how are you, to the barista serving your coffee today? Yeah, instead of saying, how are you? Oh, I'm good. You could be like, yeah, I'm good. And you know, over the weekend, I went for this particular concert that I really enjoyed. Do you listen to this type of music? Or if you don't, what's your favorite genre of music? Oh, cool, blah, blah, blah. And then you speak from there. It's whatever, it's small talk, but as you do it, it deepens. Then it's when these conversations get really interesting. But in the beginning, you just have to build that muscle of being able to speak to people for like at least a minute. And I'm telling you, in our generation, fucking nobody knows how to have a conversation. I can guarantee you. We're all glued to our phones, we're all glued to our TikToks. We do not know how to make extended conversation with each other. So if you can develop this, I genuinely feel like we will be in the top echelon of people. It definitely has led to a lot of growth in many areas for me. Number 21, spend time with yourself. Notice how I said spend time with yourself and not by yourself, because these are two different things. Spending time by yourself just means you existing in your own space doing whatever. This could be vegging out on the couch, watching TikTok, or just like kind of existing, doing really nothing of value or importance. While it's okay to rest and unwind every now and then, it's okay to even scroll TikTok in your bed sometimes, it's alright. But if that's the only thing you're doing in the presence of yourself, when are you really spending that time to get to understand you, to know you, and to get better? Never. So I think it's very important to spend time with yourself as if you were your own friend. How would you reach out? How would you text your friend to say, hey, let's hang out? Would you be like, all right, hey, let's hang out from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. We are going to sit on the couch and scroll TikTok next to each other. Are you going to do that? No. Instead, you're going to be like, okay, let's pick out an activity that we can do or somewhere outside that we can go to and spend some time together. If you can do this with a friend, why can't you do this with yourself? It's essential to like basically date yourself so that you can understand more about you, so that you can grow as a person. I used to rely a lot on people coming with me to go do things. Whether it was going to the movies, whether it was shopping, I would just be like, hey, can you come out and I want to do this? And when they said no, I was like, oh shit, I guess I can't. Wait, but I can go by myself. Why didn't I do that? That realization only hit me a bit late. So now I genuinely set aside time to like speak with myself, basically journal or go out by myself, have a gym session alone where I just like am with my thoughts, do my own thing and come back. That's when the most ideas hit me. That's when the most realizations come to me. If I didn't have that, I feel like I would stagnate in terms of my own self-growth. It's very essential to spend time with yourself, but I feel that most of the times these days we're distracting ourselves from our feelings, we're distracting ourselves from our thoughts, and we disguise that as, yeah, I'm taking a self-care day. A self-care day doesn't just mean that you're in your pajamas watching Netflix, eating chips and ice cream. It also means that you're sitting with yourself and being like, hey, how have you been? What can I do to help you feel better? Is there anything you would like to change? Is there anything you would like to change about me? And then really being honest and answering those questions and doing the work and putting the action to make those changes. I think one huge aspect used to be that when I felt negatively, I needed somebody to immediately reach out to and be like, yes, it's gonna be okay. But in spending more time with myself, I found that I can also self-soothe. I can also tell myself that, hey, it's gonna be all right. Even if nobody is available to say it, I'm able to say that to myself and then move on to the thing that I value. So spend more time with yourself. It's important. Number 22, and the final one, is appreciate yourself. Just like you spend time with yourself, wake up every day and appreciate yourself for one thing that you've done well. We often get into a trap of being like, okay, I can improve this, I can improve that, I can get better at this, I'm not good enough at this. When do we actually sit down and be like, hey, I actually like the way that I speak. I actually like the way that I was disciplined about this task today. I liked that I woke up and went to the gym even though I didn't feel like it. We almost never do that. I found that it's so important to do this with yourself because it really builds your self-confidence. It really shows you how much you're doing for yourself as well. I often get stuck in the loop of, okay, I need to improve on all these things. And maybe that's a great way of thinking when you're trying to build something, whether it's a social media channel, whether it's a business, whether it's your own personality. But time to time, you should also recognize the highlights of how far you have come, the person you've become. Be your own number one supporter. Don't look down on yourself. Don't talk down on yourself. One exercise that I found really helps is that when I find me or my friend or anybody talking negatively about themselves, like beating themselves up more than they should be, I always ask them, now, whatever you're saying, would you say this to the 6-year-old version of you? Picture that 6-year-old version of you right now. Imagine saying to the 6-year-old version of you that, oh, you can't do this. You're not enough. You're a failure. How would that 6-year-old version of you feel? Exactly. That's basically how you're making yourself feel every single time you say something negative to yourself. It's okay to be self-critical, but it's not okay to beat yourself up for no reason all the time. So whenever you feel that way, just do that one exercise, and I feel that, for me at least, it stops what I'm thinking immediately and allows me to shift into a more realistic or even positive perspective. So however you want to do it, if you want to look in the mirror and give yourself a compliment, if you want to journal and write down something you're proud of today, do it. Appreciate yourself just a little bit more. It's basically you helping you feel better on a regular basis. And that was 22 things I've learned as a 22-year-old. And if you've listened this far, if you've watched this far, I truly appreciate you. Thank you very much. I really hope this has provided you some value, some new insights, some actionable steps that you can take going into 2024. Once again, I'll say that if you are watching this in December, don't wait for 2024 January to start implementing any of these things. Start right now, start today. Every second counts. And if you enjoyed this video, if you found even one thing useful here, share this with somebody that you think would benefit from it. It would mean a lot to me. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Take care.